So, welcome to our webinar on developing and maintaining healthy relationships. Today, um, we're fortunate to have Dr. Cardano with us. My name is San Diego Sign, and I am the founder of Go Synergy. So, if you've attended any of our events before, thank you and welcome back. If this is your first time, just really briefly, we are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to leave the world better than we found it. And we provide the community with the resources and tools they need in order to succeed and thrive. So you can find out more about us at www.gosynergy.org. We are looking for people to get involved and to help us make that difference that we're intending to make. Few housekeeping items. We are going to remain mute, and the speaker can, is going to share his wealth of information. And during the interim of the webinar, you can ask your questions, raise your hands. It is interactive, and I will read off any questions or comments that's made. So without further ado, it's an honor to introduce our guest speaker for today. Dr. Cardano is a board of audiology certified audiologist and a certified dementia practitioner as well. So he's helped thousands of people treat their hearing loss, solve their hearing clarity problems, and improve their quality of life. Dr. Cardano is also an author with neuroscientist Dr. Keith Darrow, PhD, of Stop Living Your Life Disconnected. He has also authored The Hearing Clarity Solution and has been the author of a monthly newsletter called Long Island Sound. Dr. Cardano's work has focused on the effect of hearing loss on personal relationships and improving and maintaining cognitive function and quality of life with age. Dr. Cardano is also a frequent speaker on the topic of healthy aging. So Dr. Cardano, I'm so happy to have you here with us today. We can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you, Sandy. I just want to say also thank you. I mean, it's a wonderful nonprofit organization that you have, and thank you for inviting me. I don't know how many people know that Sandy and I worked together for a long time. We're going to be talking about healthy relationships and friendships. And if you think of the characteristics of, if I think of the characteristics of people that I would like to have as friends, I think Sandy has every one of those characteristics. So thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I should mention, say a little bit about, introduce myself briefly and why I really wanted to do this and share some information about this topic. Sandy mentioned I'm a doctor of audiology, so for about 30 years, my work was focused on helping people to improve their hearing because they wanted to have better relationships. You know, when we do hearing testing, if you've ever had a hearing test, the thing most people remember is that you're listening to beeping sounds and raising your hand. Well, nobody comes to an audiologist because they're interested in hearing beeping sounds in a booth. They come because they're having trouble having conversations with the people that are important to them, and they want to have better relationships. In my work as an audiologist and my research in that area, we found that hearing loss and social isolation are risk factors for dementia, which is why I became a dementia certified dementia practitioner. So this is an area that I've been interested for a long time. I became even more interested in recently in this topic of developing and maintaining healthy relationships as you age for a couple of reasons. One reason is that I am aging. So I'm probably not the only one, but I am aging.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Okay. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the challenges to maintaining and developing relationships that tend to come with age. And I'm I'm dealing with the typical challenges that most people deal with in that regard, especially since I just recently retired from private practice. So my main career has ended, and those automatic relationships that people have during their full-time working life are no longer automatic anymore. So the importance of having good relationships, maintaining uh, current ones, developing new ones is important. Uh, just, I just said a little bit about myself. Um, the 30 years that I spent in working with people with hearing loss made it made all the research on the impact of uh, poor relationships or good relationships so clear to me every day dealing with people that had trouble with relationships because they've had difficult to have conversations, and then giving them back the ability to hear better and have better conversations. But then, of course, dealing with the issue that whether you have good or hearing or not, it doesn't mean that you're a good listener, even if you have good hearing. And of course, listening is an important part of being a good friend. So that's kind of my background. Um, I'll just mention that um, this is just. I mentioned that this is an issue that's uh, personal for me, developing and maintaining friendships. So on the left here, you see a bunch of friends that I had in 1994. You can see the guy with the beard. Well, this the guy on the right with the beard. Behind the woman in the red jacket is me. Woman in the red jacket is my wife. So that was 1994. On the right, this is 2004. This is we have a tradition of getting together once a year. It was just recently. So you can see that on the top row in the back is my wife and I. In the 1994 picture, the couple in the front to the right is in the back on the left in the 2024 picture. And the couple on the top right in the 1994 picture is in the bottom right, the 2024 picture. So maintaining relationships is important. I think people you'll agree. Uh, I I have a lot. I know there's a lot of things that I can do to improve my relationships, but this is just something give you a little insight into um, my personal situation. Here's a couple of things we're going to go over today. Um, the, why healthy relationships are so important. What are the requirements for a healthy relationship, and what you can do to cultivate that. What are the typical challenges that develop to having really good relationships as you age, and how you can overcome them. Some simple ways to deepen and strengthen friendships as that you already have, and how you can find and attract people um, that you can have healthy, supportive relationships and creating new relationships. So I want to take a minute here before we get into this um, to um, well, let's just quickly go over some of the reasons why having healthy relationships is so important. Uh, this is Robert Waldinger runs one of the biggest study on long-term happiness. It's been going on since 1938, and the conclusion of that study is that if you were going to pick just one thing to do that would help you to have a healthier, more happier life in the future, physically healthy and mentally healthy. The one thing, if you're going to pick one thing, it would be the thing that had the biggest impact is developing and maintaining supportive, healthy relationships. Um, just a couple of quick statistics here. Loneliness is obviously, you can imagine loneliness, of course, is emotionally harmful, but it's physically harmful. It's equivalent. This is based on 148 previously published studies. Equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's equivalent to being an alcoholic. And not exercise. Twice as harmful as obesity. So we're not just saying having healthy relationships is just not a nice thing that's pleasant to have. It's dangerous if you don't have it. So just a few more quotes. This is from best-selling author Dean Ornish that uh, intimate relationships have a greater impact on our health than most other things. Um, and this is from the former Surgeon General. Loneliness is associated with greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, depression, anxiety, and so forth. So this is a serious thing that we're talking about. So we're going to talk about a few things, three basic categories of relationships. But first, I want to ask this: um, what if you ask people if you think about what you want your legacy to be, um, and you think, what do you think you're going to be most proudest about at the end of your life? Most people, for most people, it has to do something to do with relationships. So before we get into this, just want to ask, just to get us started, I want you to ask yourself if you would rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, yourself, how would you rate yourself as a friend? Where 10 means you're a great friend to have, or 1 means you're a terrible friend. And Sandy, how would you rate yourself?
I would say not. I don't want to be overly. No, I would say honestly about an 8.
Well, as your friend, I would say at least 9.5.
Oh, okay, good.
So, but I think also, if you think about it, you're probably, and I think about myself, I'm probably a better friend to some people than I am to others. You know, and sometimes it's a matter of I could be a better friend to this person if I put the effort into it. And sometimes it's a matter of taking someone for granted, or um, just assuming that you're going to have a good friendship and not intentionally putting the effort into it. You know, um, so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But so I've the research that I've done, if you tells us that if you categorize, it's this kind of a simple way to just a framework, an easy way to think about how to improve your relationships is to think about current relationships, how you can improve the ones that you have, dormant old relationships, and are there any people that you know from the past that maybe you would like to reconnect with, and then new relationships, how to start and develop new relationships. Um, that's important in a lot of ways. When I was when I was working with patients, a lot of patients, when they would come to the office to have their hearing checked and so forth, they would be they would start talking about their grandchildren and what they did when they were younger, and they would just be talking my ear off. And part of the reason for that, I mean, I'd like to think it's because I'm such a good listener, but I think part of the reasons for that is a lot of their friends had either passed away or moved away, and and I was somebody they had there to talk to.
Interesting.
So that's something, as we get older, to keep in mind. And that's one reason why uh, reviving old relationships and new relationships can be important. Just as quick aside, just a timely thing here. Just this past week, Tuesday, a study from the University of Michigan saying that people who experience chronic loneliness have a 56% higher risk of stroke. So keep that in mind. Goes along with all the other research. Okay. So now we're going to talk quickly here about what are some of the challenges that come about as you age for developing relationships. And anytime we talk about the challenges that come along with aging, and I dealt with this when I was talking to patients about the hearing loss that they might develop as they age, but difficulties in maintaining and developing relationship as you age is the same thing. So there's three approaches that psychologists talk about that people can take when they're facing challenges that come with age. Denial means you just say it's not happening. So you could say if you have a hearing loss, no, my hearing is really okay. Or if you're feeling lonely or or you don't feel you can have the kind of relationships that you like to have, you could just pretend that you do or say that you do. Second option is normalization. So you could acknowledge that you have the problem, but you could take the approach that, well, this is just normal as you get older. This is what happens. You know, you lose your hearing, you lose friends. It's just normal. Nothing that I really can do about it. Or the third option is being proactive, saying, okay, I acknowledge I have this issue. Let's see what I can do to help myself out. So, Sandy, which of those three options do you think is the best?
Um, I think I think I think being proactive, of
Right.
course.
Well, in fact, when I was working with you, you saw the patients that I was seeing, and you know that we saw people that would deny their problems. Um,
Yes.
doesn't This problem only gets worse, right? Or people that if they do get to the point where okay, they accept the problem, but they just make the excuse that, well, this happens to everybody that gets older, so I'm not going to do anything about it. But I can't do it. That
Yeah.
also doesn't help, right?
Now,
So
while you were speaking, Dr. Larry, I do have a question.
yeah,
Is there an age specific range when we talk about like the challenges of aging,
right,
this whole process? Is
right,
there an age specific range that we're
mm,
talking? Because
yeah,
when we think of
right,
it initially,
yeah,
we're kind of like, okay, well, it's like, at an older age, but
right.
I find that I'm having those, those concerns and things like that that pops up in my, so is it age specific
Yeah.
or is it something?
Well, keep in mind that since the day you're born, you're getting older, right?
Right.
So this applies to anybody who's getting older. Um, and it's everybody is different. So, for example, um, and it applies to people in whatever your age is, but there are um, challenges to having good friendship that happen at any age that are similar, but as you there are things that happen as you get old, for example, and it happens at different ages for different people. So, for example, I just retired from private practice. So that's a transition. Now, maybe there are people that don't retire until they're older than I am now.
Mhm.
Um, but that didn't I didn't retire when I was young. Um, so those challenges to developing relationships that happen when you retire, that's happening for me now. Could happen for other people at a later age, right?
Right.
So it's not age specific, but it's not there's any specific age number, but it's there's a continuum, and so um, it's something that these are challenges that happen gradually for most people as you progress through your life, and everybody everybody's life changes as they go through life. Um, and the challenges, so if you're in school, you have certain challenges, but now you go from school to the workforce, things have changed, your social situation has changed, uh, and then if you retire. So it's not one specific age, but um, there's something here that applies to everybody.
Great.
But in general, I think that you have it's a question of making that decision. Are you going to deny the issue? Are you going to just say, well, I admit it, but I'm not going to do anything about it? or you're going to make the decision. And it doesn't happen automatically. It's a question of making a decision that, okay, I decided I'm going to be proactive about this. And those are the people that I think end up being more fulfilled and happy. So here is a little bit more. So challenges for relationships that might increase with age. So Sandy, what comes to mind for you if I say challenges for relationships that might increase as you get older?
Hobbies or interests can change,
Yeah,
right? So the
right, right.
person's
Yeah, and I think, uh, and this happens throughout your life. I think people that you had a lot in common with at one time, uh, maybe they're great friends for a season, but things change and you move on. So that's one of the typical things. Here are some of the things that a lot of people report. So one thing is that your situation changes. You don't, if you're in school or you're working, there are automatic relationships that you have because you're going to go to work every day. You're going to go to school every day, and you see these people all the time. And it's kind of it doesn't take as much. It's planning. It's there, and you scheduled and kind of automatic that those people are around. So that might be less as you get old, especially if you get the point of um, less full time work or you're not in school or you retired. So you have that situation where the relationships are not automatic anymore, and you have to just intentionally make the effort to be with those to nurture those relationships. Some friends or family move away or pass away. I mentioned that when I was seeing patients, a lot of the senior citizen patients that I had, um, I became their best friend, partly because their other friends had died. Um, I like to flatter myself to think that I was such a great friend, but I was maybe the only one left. Um, and that was a very common thing. Some friendships, some of those automatic friendships, where you didn't intend, you didn't say, "I would like this kind of a person for a friend. I'm going to go find them." You just happened to meet the person at work or school or something like that, and developed a relationship. But maybe it wasn't really the kind of person that you really would have normally chosen, right?
Mhm.
And then with aging, eventually comes some other physical limitations for a lot of people, and we try to postpone them or deal with them as much as we can. But as a radiologist, I was dealing with people who have hearing loss that they developed as they age. So that hinders the conversation and developing relationships. And of course, there's ways to deal with that. Or I just had lunch with one of my former patients the other day, and I told him I was doing this kind of presentation, and he said, "Don't forget to mention mobility issues." So there are people that eventually get to the point where they have a hard time, getting around, getting out of the house. Um, it's a situation where sometimes technology can help. Uh, online platforms, Facebook, Zoom, but that mobility when you can't get around so well, that and to go meet people can be an issue. So these are some of the things that, and there's of course ways to approach this and deal with it. Uh, Not having automatic relationships, we're going to talk about that. Dealing with the situation that friends or family may move away or pass on, we're going to talk about that. That's one of the reasons why it's important to develop new relationships. Uh, Choosing friends that were not chosen wisely. We'll talk a little bit about that. What kind of friends you want to be with, and of course, physical limitations. That's another issue, um, probably beyond the scope of this webinar. But those are things to consider.
That's
Um,
it's such an interesting thing. You mentioned the automatic relationships, and If I can be completely honest, a lot of the relationships I've developed, I realized in hearing that, because I've never heard that term before,
Yeah.
but hearing automatic relationships, a lot of the relationships I developed,
Yeah.
throughout my life, I realize now that they were mostly automatic. A lot of them weren't
I
intentional, which you end up finding some really great people, right?
well, you could get lucky, yeah,
Right.
but it's just by luck, it wasn't, you know,
Right.
intentional. You could, yeah. So, um, I mean, yeah. So, but it's a difference when you, I mean, you have a point as you get older and hopefully wiser, then you have that option, that ability to look back and say which of these automatic relationships are ones that I would have chosen.
Right.
And let's
Yes.
let's work on that and develop those. And which ones are like, if I really was thinking about this, I probably wouldn't have chosen that one. And it doesn't mean that the other person is a bad person; they're just not a good fit, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
Um, so that's all right. So those are some of the challenges. Now, so those are some of the disadvantages of getting old. But what are the advantages of getting old? They say that the best violins are over 100 years old. Uh, Before that, the sound quality is not as good. Uh, the most beautiful trees are the big old trees, right?
True.
Wine has to be aged, right?
Right.
Uh,
And
but
cheese.
yes, right. Jeez, that's right. But so there are some advantages to getting older, and this is based on research. There's this concept of memento mori. I don't know how many people know what this means. It's Latin. It means remember you're going to die.
Mm.
So for a lot of people, as they get older, they're more aware of their mortality, and that awareness of your mortality tends to, if you are open to it, tends to make you appreciate the moment and the time that you have, and puts things into perspective a little better. So gives you a little wisdom. Some of the things that you may, when you were younger, consider to be important. Now, as you get older, you realize really not that important. Uh, you know, the what the research is telling us is that as people get older, they start to realize, understand that the the differential value between possessions and experiences. So possessions become less important and experiences become more important. And if you think about this, at the end of your life, or people they have that expression, someone thinks they're about to die and their life flashes before their eyes. What is what are most people thinking of at the end of their life? They're thinking of moments that they had during their life,
Mm.
experiences, usually experiences with people. So uh, if you're open to it, wisdom can come with age. Um, in some ways, it's easier to maintain friends. You may not have as much pressure from career or other kinds of family obligations as you get older, so it might be easier to put the time in, add more time in it to put into friendships. Friendships tend to be more meaningful and satisfying because they're not as superficial. For a lot of people as they get older, they um, they realize the difference between what's superficial, what's meaningful more than they did when they were younger. And emotional connections matter more. And so that's one of the reasons why the friendships that you have as you get older can in some ways be better, not as, maybe deeper, especially if you have a lot more experience to draw on to share with your friend with a friend. So getting older doesn't just have disadvantages, also has advantages. That makes sense, Andy.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, that in fact I've I've found that person.
The memento mori,
Yeah,
that part of it stood out to me because It's true. I always say, like, I remember watching this movie Bucket List, and the person thought that they had, a couple of months to live, and they went out and they did everything they wanted to in that moment. And I remember thinking to myself, if we lived each day in that with that mindset of,
Yeah,
you never know when that day's gonna be,
yeah,
we yeah. So
yeah, yeah. I know, and people have different experiences with this. Um, I when I was in my 40s, there was an audiologist that had a practice not too far from my practice that was, I think, exactly the same age as me. Had a heart attack and died.
um,
And I said, "Uh-oh, um, that could have been me, right?" So it made me appreciate things more. But I think there is a difference. This is something to keep in mind. On this is there's research about this too. There are people that have an experience that reminds them of immortality, where and it wakes them up, and it makes them say, "Wow, I'm gonna make sure that I really make the most of the rest of my life, and um, I'm gonna take some actions. I'm gonna do things that are gonna be fulfilling, and I'm gonna, you know, treat people the way I want to treat them. I'm gonna be the kind of person I want to be." And as a result of that, they use that as a motivation, and they do terrific things, and they accomplish things and so forth. There are other people that have the same kind of experience. Maybe it's the death of a loved one. Maybe they were in an accident or something like that. Or and but and they might say, "Wow, this is." They might get their attention, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years later, they haven't changed,
yeah.
and their life hasn't. If film in life hasn't improved, the difference between the people who have that realization that, oh, I'm not going to be here forever, and they start accomplishing things and having a more fulfilling life, compared to the people who have that kind of experience but nothing changes. The difference is creating a the, whether you created a plan
Mhm.
and put it on your schedule, what you're going to do, to have a more fulfilling life, to be more the person you want to be, and took action to implement that plan. So that's why we're going to talk about, before we finish here, how an easy way for you to come up with a plan for having the kind of relationships that you want to have, that you can put on your schedule, on your calendar, and implement it and take action. Because thinking about how important relationships are, thinking about what wonderful relationships I would like to have, that's not what does it. It's taking action. To get you started. So we're going to talk about how to make a plan and take action. And in fact, I created a workbook that we can share with everybody. Very
Perfect.
simple workbook, yeah. Okay, so that will help you to very simple way, quick, simple way to make a plan and take action. All right,
Oh, thank you for
so just to get just to kind of lay the foundation here. I mean, I've read, you know, books and watched, seminars about relationships and so forth, and things that get very complicated if you wanted to get into this. But this is I think, a very simple and effective way to think about how what you need to have a healthy relationship, and how you can, how you can improve the relationships that you have. So there are three things that you really need for a healthy, good relationship: positivity, which makes people feel satisfied; consistency, meaning you have to spend some time on a regular basis with each other. That makes people feel safe, builds trust; and vulnerability. So you have to be able to reveal your true self. Everybody has a need to feel known. That makes people feel seen. There's uh, as far as positivity goes, there is research saying that in order to have a good relationship, you need to have 5 positive comments for every one negative comment that you make to the other person in relationship. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Consistency, if you only see, well, let me ask you this, Sandy, have you ever gotten in touch with someone that you haven't been in touch with in a long time? And you have a conversation and it's really great, and you say, well, why don't we talk more, get together, talk more often? Right? That ever
Yeah,
happen?
yeah, or we have to, stay in touch and let's
Right,
let's keep in touch. Yeah.
right. Well, and so that's because consistency, you if you go to Sandy and I were talking earlier about going to the gym. So you can go to the gym once, have a great workout, and if you don't go again for another 6 months, you're not going to make much progress, right? Well, you could see your friend once and not contact that person for another 6 months, year, whatever. It could have been a great get together that you had, but you're not going to have that kind of relationship that you might have. Vulnerability, if you think about people that you know that you have you feel like you have a close relationship, a supportive, close relationship with them, and you think of other people where you know them or they know you, but you don't know that much about them, and um, it's a kind of superficial relationship. It's not somebody that you would confide in if you had a problem or you got sick, right? The difference is that whether you've been able to be vulnerable and you feel seen and known, right? So if you think about relationships that you have that you would like to be better, um, a very simple way to make any relationship better is to pick at least one of these three things and work on it. Right? If you or the reverse. Let's say, for example, well, Sandy, can you think of a relationship? Um, I can I can talk about myself. Can you think about a relationship that could be better if there was more consistency? Right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So this is something that I realized since I've retired from my primary career. Um, there are a lot of friends that I have or that I had, and I see, I talk to once in a while, um, that I know it could be much better if I. So I'm thinking of one friend. Actually, one of the friends I have a picture of here a little bit later. Um, we just started to get together, more consistently, and it's really helped the relationship tremendously. Um, I'm just going to quickly run through some of these other things just to uh, get you thinking a little bit about how you can improve your um, your relationships. I mean, positivity is a simple one. Uh, Stop complaining so much, right? Talk about what's good, right? And
Mhm.
Sandy and I were talking earlier about no matter what situation you're in, you can always think of negative or positive things to focus on. You have to make a decision whether you're going to focus on the positive or the negative. And sometimes it's if it's easy to complain. If sometimes it's almost enjoyable just to complain, but you have to sometimes catch yourself and think of something positive. Um, Consistency, scheduling time to be with someone monthly or whatever might be something to consider. And vulnerability, when you feel safe, making the other person feel safe so you can be vulnerable. But here's just a couple of other um, things, just quickly. Novelty. So neurologically, biochemically, um, their novelty is an important thing. Um, if if you if you think of, well, strong bonds are created through doing new things with people. So when you're in a new situation, your self-awareness goes up. Our brain is wired to be more alert when we're in a new situation. So your self-awareness goes up. You remember the experience better when it's not just a routine thing. Um, and when we experience something new, um, we release dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter that creates positive associations with the people that you're with during those times. So there's a lot of different reasons for this, but if you have a relationship that you would like to be better, one important thing, easy thing to do is to introduce novelty. So that just means either do something different activity, go someplace you haven't been before, or even besides experiential novelty, just intellectual novelty, meaning just talk about something that you don't normally talk about. And it really it creates better, more memories, and it solidifies bonds. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll just go through some of these other things. Creative expression. If you do something creative together, or even just brainstorming with a friend, I mean, this is one way you can tell. If one way I can tell if somebody has a good friendship is I can ask them, "Would you feel comfortable to call that person and say, you know what, I had this idea for something I wanted to try maybe. Can I can I brainstorm with you and talk about get your feedback?" Right? Contribution. Uh, really good friendships are formed by contributing something together. This is why volunteering is so helpful. When you do something together that is contributing to the community or helping somebody else, um, it it creates a bond between you. Adventure. If you do something, this is also related to somewhat the novelty. If you do something a little risky or something that's um, a little bit out of the ordinary, it creates a shared experience that helps the relationship. Alignment around your passions. If I ask you what percentage of the people that you know really know what you are passionate about, right? What really you're really interested. You know, if you keep those things to yourself and people don't know what you're interested and passionate about, you're not going to be able to attract people that are like-minded. And sometimes physicality, you know, friends that push you and uh, you walk with somebody or work out with somebody, you know, sharing that physical exertion that creates another kind of experience that people. Uh, um, right. So um, we talked a little bit earlier about rating yourself as a friend. Um, and what are the characteristics of some of the friends what people you'd like to have as a friend? So I asked myself some of these questions. How can you become a better friend? I tend to have, at least I have had a problem as a friend with consistency, um, following up, and staying in contact with people. So it's something you can ask yourself. Um, and Sandy, I can't believe that there's anything you could do to be a better friend than you are.
I
Um,
I think consistency for me
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think part of it is prioritizing friendships. You know, I think there's a when you're younger, there's kind of a you don't most people don't tend to think so much about you know strategizing or scheduling. Maybe a little bit, but because it's more you have more of those automatic friendships.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah,
And this is probably, it's kind of like an offset to a different discussion, but I think on a trauma informed approach, right?
yeah,
There's, you've had bad experiences with friends and you're
yeah,
like, withdrawn. And I think it's important to know that we're each individual person, and you can't kind of carry that along with you. And you
yeah,
mentioned some of the really important reasons why maintaining and developing those friendships and those relationships are so important. So,
Well, yeah, and that's the important thing. Uh, if you've had bad experiences with friendships um, or relationships, there's two ways to approach that. Um, you can either, and it's the same with anything that you might try to do where it didn't work out.
right.
So you can either say, well, that didn't work out, so I'm never going to do anything like that again, or you can learn from it.
Yeah.
You know what they say, Thomas Edison tried, I don't know how many different types of material for the light bulb,
Right.
and none of them worked until the last one. And he said, well, I wasn't failing. I was just successful in finding 100 different things that didn't work.
Yes. Yes.
And I learned, so I think if you can learn, uh,
A good
like
point.
using the frameworks like this to say, well, if the relationship didn't work or things went wrong, um, what can I learn to do better next time? Did we not have enough consistency? Was it the wrong type of? Was it not a good fit? The wrong type of person? We didn't share, you know, values or interests, or was it that we were not? I didn't make we didn't make each other feel safe to be vulnerable. Was it that we let ourselves fall into negativity too much? So there's ways that you can learn and make a plan. Yeah, I'm talking about planning and implementing your plan. Um, to go forward. Right? Makes sense. Okay. So we'll go through this little walk quickly, but so if you think of your current relationships, dormant old relationships, and new relationships. So just very quickly, um, and some of this is in the workbook um, that I developed for you. Uh, okay, plan and take action, like with current relationships. So here's a simple. This is I'm using this research that I've done to coach myself on this. I get as much help as anybody with this. But who are two people that are currently you're in contact with that you'd like to improve or deepen your relationship with? Right. Think of two people, and then uh, how can you improve your positivity, consistency, and vulnerability? Right? So can I shift from negative comments to more positive conversations with them? Can I have more consistency, more vulnerability? An idea that I think has helped me a lot is, and it's something you may not be, might sound strange, but if you think of somebody that you'd like to have a better relationship with, I mean, not necessarily somebody that you want to have. I mean, it doesn't have to be, I mean, not that they're going to be your only friend, but if there's a way to say, you know what, let's get together, the first Monday of every month, where it's pre-scheduled, right? It's something that you may not be used to. You may just assume that friendship should happen, just without any planning, whatever. But if you say the first Monday of every month, we're going to get together for lunch, and now it's on the calendar, right? So you have consistency, um, or that those kind of things can help. Other things, how can you introduce novelty into the relationship? New activities, topics of discussion, places to go. So there's a picture here with my friend Ken. He actually was in that picture, that 1994 picture.
Wow.
So this is just a couple weeks ago, and this is at the Muttontown Preserve. Something we never did before. We went for a hike through the preserve,
Oh,
and he took me to a place I'd never been before, Chick-fil-A. Brand new
I
experience,
can't believe that.
first time ever. Uh, but so this is something none of us are gonna ever forget this. Uh, we had a great time hiking through the woods, and then he's making fun of me for never having been to Chick-fil-A before. Um, but it was something we never did before. We know each other for maybe it could be 40 years, Um, and it really helped our relationship, and it's something we're never going to forget. So that's things to think about with current relationships. Dormant relationships. So if you just a kind of an exercise of talking about planning and taking it, because nothing happens if you don't plan and take action. You'll notice. I don't, Sandy, if this makes this if you this sounds right to you, but very few things. Well, it's very few things that are positive happen accidentally.
Yes.
It does happen, but or without any intention or effort. Without any intention or effort, things fall apart from neglect. You know, so that's what we're talking about: planning and taking action. So think about two people in your past you'd like to reconnect with. Uh, think about when you'll reconnect with them, what you'd like to talk to them about. These are some friends from the past that recently got together with to reconnect. Uh, One of my high school teammates, my little league. I wish I had a picture of it, but little league teammate and high school classmate. We got back in touch. He's coaching high school football, high school baseball. Went to one of his games,
Oh,
and
that's amazing.
and all of a sudden I realized, wow, it's a cool guy, and I'd like to be in touch with him more. So uh, dormant relationships is something people don't kind of discount sometimes, but they can turn out to be some of the best relationships because you have something, you know something about them. There's a little bit of comfortableness there, and have a little bit something coming from the past, but and there's a lot that you have to catch up on. So anyway, that's something to consider. Okay, now new relationships. So here's where introspection helps a lot because you have a chance now that you're not a teenager anymore. You have a chance to have intentional friendships and develop the kind of friend with people, the kind of people that you really would like to have as friends. Um, but it requires a little introspection because if they say if you don't know what you're looking for, you're certainly not. You're probably not going to find it, right?
Right.
Uh, right. So if you think about what are some activities, hobbies, topics, causes, types of entertainment, whatever that you are interested in. Now, he, here's something that a lot of people get stuck with, and when I talked earlier about retirement, there are people that are so involved in their career, um, they devote themselves totally to their career, and for years they're not doing anything, they're not getting involved in anything other than their career, and then they retire, and they haven't developed any other interests. Um, Now they have to start from scratch, right? So my advice to anybody who's not retired yet is don't wait till you're retired to start looking into things that you're interested in, groups that you're interested in, because it's going to be a lot easier later. I mean, if you get to the point where you say, well, what am I interested in? I don't know. That means you got work to do, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, I know Sandy will never have that problem. Uh, Sandy is do I have this? Sandy has a lot of interest. Am I right, Sandy?
I do.
Yes. so, so that's great. I can say, for example, one of the things I got involved with the Lions Club when I was a lot younger, maybe 40 years ago, and I stayed involved to some one extent or another. Uh, when I was busy, with my owning a business, I wasn't able to devote as much time as I would like to it. But I was involved, and um, now I was telling Sandy last week now that I retired from my primary career. Last week I got elected vice president of the Valley Stream Lions Club.
Which is
Uh,
awesome.
right, and it's different. I think if I would have just all of a sudden tried to join the Lions Club now,
Right.
it would have been different. People wouldn't have known me. I wouldn't have known them. Um, that there's a history. They know what I've contributed in the past. Um, so besides friendship, this is an example where becoming, uh, having a fulfilling life where you're involved in things that you're interested in, um, happens to be helpful for developing relationships. Um, so you might, I mean, I would say actually, this to some people this sounds too structured, but I think it's helpful. Sit down and write down, make a list of here are the things that I am interested in. So I'm interested in playing the guitar. I'm interested in working out and bodybuilding. I'm interested in charitable organizations and whatever it is, so that you have it on paper and you got something to look at and use in your planning, right? And of course, then you want to think about where those people congregate, right, in person or online. Um, and and here's the action step: is what are two small things that you're going to do, and make it a SMART goal. About a SMART goal: specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound with a deadline. So, Sandy, we know about SMART goals, right? Um, so we used to use SMART goals in our practice. So, but um, what what are you going to do? Not someday, not but this coming week. What step are you going to take to connect um, with people? And it could be small steps. You'll I found that taking a small step every day keeps you motivated and keeps you from being overwhelmed. If you say, I'm going to make 10 friends tomorrow, you're going to get discouraged. It's going to be overwhelming, and you're going to give up. Right? But if you say, you know what, I'm going to, I'm going to, I'm going to attend, go to a meeting for this group next week, and then you did it, congratulate yourself for doing it, and then you take the next step. Right? So that's, Rick, that's I think what helps. This is a picture here of me. Uh, I like um, I like reading and talking about books and stuff. So I went to the library, and this is a friend I met, a new friend. Turned out to be such an interesting person. We started talking about books that we like. She's a docent at the Nassau County Museum of Art. She used to run a biotech laboratory. Her husband writes poetry, wants to know how to publish his book, and I'm going to try to help her with that. But just because I decided, it's a decision, right? I'm going to go to the library, strike up a conversation. I could have just passed her by, but that's new relationship. So intention, right? Um, and that's good. Okay, so to wrap up, um, I was telling Sandy earlier that I put together this little workbook. It's only a few pages. Your quick start guide to having fulfilling, supportive relationships you want and need for the long run. It's a simple, easy little guide to help you to make a plan, be intentional, take action in a way that's going to have you developing and maintaining relationships that you really want to need. And I think, and we'll send it to anybody who signed up.
Yes.
Right, Sandy? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
All right. And um, so um, should we have people Can we wrap up now? The questions, or I can wrap up now?
Yeah, I guess we can ask, does anyone have any questions? You can type it in the chat if you don't want to unmute. How do we get in contact with you, Dr. Larry, and what's what's something that you...
Right. Well, so I'd really be glad if to have anybody get in touch with me. Easiest way is my email, which is here on the bottom of the cover of the workbook. Lawrence Cardano 365@gmail.com.
Excellent.
What I really would like is if anybody, when we send you this workbook, if you could just give me some feedback, what you thought of it.
That would be great.
Yeah.
So we can email you the feedback.
Yeah, please email any questions or any comments about the webinar, the workbook, and even your answers to some of the questions. So yeah, look forward to that feedback.
We have a comment also that thank you so much. This was very informative.
Oh, that's great. No, I appreciate it. I mean, it's something that personal to me. It's something that I need to learn about. And I think, the research that I've done tells us that everybody has some difficulty with developing friendships, relationships, family members. So if you have any difficulties with friendships, relationships, family, you're not alone. It's normal, but there are ways to do it. So I have something for you in conclusion here. Okay.
Thank you.
This is kind of a prayer having to do with relationships and getting older. So maybe I'll just read through it, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So it's something that's thought-provoking, I think. So the prayer is, Lord, you know me better. You know better than I myself that I am growing older and will someday be old. Keep me from the fatal habit of thinking I must say something on every subject on every occasion. Release me from the craving to straighten out everybody's affairs. Make me thoughtful but not moody, helpful but not bossy. With my vast store of wisdom, it seems a pity not to use it all. But you know, Lord, that I want a few friends at the end. Keep my mind free from the recital of endless details. Give me wings to get to the point. Seal my lips on my aches and pains. They are increasing, and love of rehearsing them is becoming sweeter as the years go by. I dare not ask for improved memory, but for a growing humility and a lessening sureness when my memory seems to clash with the memories of others. Teach me the glorious lesson that occasionally I may be mistaken. Keep me reasonably sweet, for a soured old person is one of the crowning works of the devil. Give me the ability to see good things in unexpected places and talent in unexpected people, and give me, O Lord, the grace to tell them so. So that's it.
I love that. That's amazing. Oh, I actually, what is the name of that? I think I need that more than anything.
It's a couple hundred years old. It's from Teresa of Avila. So if you just look up Teresa of Avila.
Okay, awesome.
Old age prayer. But you know what? Maybe when I send out when we send out the workbooks, I could send this out with it.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah. So,
I learned so much, and thank you so much for all of the information. I learned so much from myself and just introspection and being able to kind of see so many things. One is the automatic friendship. I'm blown away by that because I'm like, oh my God, that's
something you don't think of. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's something you don't think of. And you know what? Just the ways of developing new friendships, and kind of like have your head, especially after COVID and all of these things that happen and life happens, right? And it kind of sometimes forces you to have your guard up, and you
Mm,
don't realize all of the things that you're missing as a result of that. So it's
yeah,
so important to be able to understand how to. A lot of people want to do these things,
yeah.
they don't know how to do it. And thank you so much for sharing that, you know?
Oh, thank you, thank you. I hope it was thought provoking, encouraging. Yeah,
Yes.
because there, I know patients, senior citizen patients that I've had who have actually better relationships in their um, older years than they had when they were younger. So that is possible.
Yeah, it's almost like you're getting rid of the it's like the real deal now. Like you're getting the authentic side of people and,
Yeah.
the
Well,
meaningful side of
you
them.
get to know yourself better, and then
Yes.
you know what's fulfilling to you, and you have more to give to people. So yeah,
Yeah,
good,
absolutely.
good.
Thank you so
Well,
much. I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Oh,
And we
thank you,
will
Sandy.
definitely keep in touch.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dr. Larry,
Yeah.
thank you so much.